A carrier strike group is an operational formation of the United States Navy. It is composed of roughly 7,500 personnel, an aircraft carrier, at least one cruiser, a destroyer squadron of at least 2 destroyers and/or frigates, and a carrier air wing of 65 to 70 aircraft. A carrier strike group also, on occasion, includes submarines, attached logistics ships and a supply ship. The carrier strike group commander operationally reports to the commander of the numbered fleet, who is operationally responsible for the area of waters in which the carrier strike group is operating. Carrier strike groups comprise a principal element of U.S. power projection capability, previously referred to as carrier battle groups. They are often referred to by the carrier they are associated with. As of March 2016, there are 10 carrier strike groups. The carrier strike group is a flexible naval force that can operate in confined waters or in the open ocean, during day and night, in all weather conditions. The principal role of the carrier and its air wing within the carrier strike group is to provide the primary offensive firepower, while the other ships provide defense and support. These roles are not exclusive, however. Other ships in the strike group sometimes undertake offensive operations, and the carrier's air wing contributes to the strike group's defense. Thus, from a command and control perspective, carrier strike groups are combat organized by mission rather than by platform. History. The development of the U.S. Navy carrier battle group can be traced to the 1920s and was initially based on previous experience grouping battleships and other major surface combatants. In World War II, administratively aircraft carriers were assigned to carrier divisions. Operationally, they were assigned to task forces, of which Task Force 11, Task Force 16 and Task Force 17 perhaps gained the most fame for the roles in the Battle of the Coral Sea and the Battle of Midway. The single carrier battle group was born with the military drawdown that followed World War II. Carrier Division 1 was redesignated Carrier Group 1 on 30 June 1973, and seemingly all carrier divisions were redesignated carrier groups on that date. Throughout the 1990s, the U.S. Navy's aircraft carrier groups were officially referred to as carrier battle groups, and were commanded by either flag officers called cruiser destroyer group or carrier group commanders. In the summer of 1992, the U.S. Navy instituted a concept that mandated greater task group integration of naval air and surface warfare assets into a more permanent carrier battle group structure. Each of the Navy's 12 existing carrier battle groups consisted of an aircraft carrier, an embarked carrier air wing, cruisers, destroyer, and frigate units, and 2 nuclear-powered attack submarines. On the 1st of October 2004, carrier groups and cruiser destroyer groups were redesignated carrier strike groups. The change in nomenclature from battle to strike appears to have been connected with an increasing emphasis on projecting air power ashore. The change acknowledged that battles at sea on the Battle of Midway model were becoming more unlikely. Missions. Carrier strike groups are tasked to accomplish a variety of wartime missions, as well as a wide variety of functions in situations short of war. The peacetime mission is to conduct forward presence operations, to help shape the strategic environment, deter conflict, build interoperability with allies, and respond to crises when necessary. The U.S. Navy provides a regular rotation of strike groups overseas, typically for 6–8 months, based on the needs of unified combatant commands that request strike group capabilities in the respective area of responsibility. The ships in the group often disaggregate from the carrier, performing missions hundreds or even thousands of miles away. The missions of the carrier strike groups include power projection projection ashore against a wide range of strategic, operational, and tactical targets defended by sophisticated air defense systems, during day and night, in all weather conditions, gaining and maintaining sea control including coastal regions, bounded seas, choke points, and the open ocean, protection of commercial and military shipping, protection of a United States Marine Corps amphibious ready group prior to or during an amphibious operation, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, surveillance, intelligence to achieve and maintain a comprehensive operational picture of the littoral environment, including surface, undersea, air, and relevant land areas of interest. Command and control of assigned U.S. and multinational forces, establishing air superiority or air supremacy in an area by seizing and maintaining control of designated airspace, theater ballistic missile defense of littoral areas and selected theater-wide areas against attack. Operations in support of the peacetime presence mission, including supporting U.S. diplomacy through cooperative engagement with designated allied forces, normal peacetime operations, and shows of force. Typical CSG composition. CSGs are not restricted to a specific composition and can be modified depending on expected threats, roles, or missions expected during a deployment, and one may be different from another. The Navy states that there really is no real definition of a strike group. Strike groups are formed and disestablished on an as-needed basis, and one may be different from another. However, they all are comprised of similar types of ships. A U.S. Navy carrier strike group typically includes a supercarrier, which is the centerpiece of the strike group and also serves as the flagship for the CSG commander and respective staff. The carrier is commanded by an aviation community captain. A carrier air wing typically consisting of up to 9 squadrons. Carrier air wings are commanded by an aviation community captain. 1 or 2 Aegis-guided missile cruisers of the Ticonderoga class are multi-mission surface combatant, equipped with BGM-109 Tomahawk missiles for long-range strike capability, each commanded by a surface community captain. A destroyer squadron commanded by a surface community captain who commands the escort destroyers with 2 to 3 guided missile destroyers of the Arleigh class, a multi-mission surface combatant used primarily for anti-aircraft and anti-submarine warfare, but which also carries Tomahawk missiles for long-range strike capability. A destroyer is commanded by a surface community commander, up to 2 attack submarines, usually of the Los Angeles class, used to screen the strike group against hostile surface ships and submarines, but which also carry Tomahawk missiles for long-range strike capability. A combined ammunition, oiler and supply ship, usually supply class, provides logistic support. While the carrier strike group is the various components' operational superior, administratively the ships and the carrier air wing are assigned to different U.S. Navy-type commands. Aircraft carriers and carrier air wings are under the administrative control of Commander, Naval Air Force U.S. Atlantic Fleet, or Commander, Naval Air Forces, Pacific. Escorts, including guided missile cruisers and a CSG's destroyer squadron, are under the administrative control of Commander, Naval Surface Forces Atlantic, a Commander, Naval Surface Forces Pacific. Composite Warfare Command Structure. The strike group comprises several commands, all of which reside under the authority of the commander of the CSG. The CCSG is typically a 1-star rear admiral who often promotes to 2 stars while in the job. He is the immediate superior in command to the carrier air wing, destroyer squadron, and cruiser commanding officers assigned to the strike group. As such, he is responsible for for unit-level training, integrated training, and readiness for assigned ships and units, as well as maintaining administrative functions and material readiness tracking for ships and squadrons assigned to the group. In battle, the CCSG is also known as the Composite Warfare Commander, who acts as the central command authority for the entire strike group. The CWC designates subordinate warfare commanders for various missions. Strike warfare. The Strike Warfare Commander is usually the Air Wing Commander. He sets the general strike philosophy and employs air wing aircraft as well as strike group Tomahawk missiles. Air warfare. The commanding officer of one of the strike group cruisers is usually assigned as Air Warfare Commander. He is the only warfare commander not on the carrier, as the Combat Information Center of Aegis cruisers is specially designed for inner air battle functions. Command and AMP control. Space and electronic warfare. The Space and Electronic Warfare Commander acts as principal advisor to CWC for use and counter-use of the electromagnetic spectrum by friendly and enemy forces. He promulgates force emissions control restrictions, monitors organic and non-organic intelligence and surveillance sensors, and develops operational deception and counter-targeting plans as appropriate. Surface warfare. The SUWC is responsible for surface surveillance, coordination and war at sea. Undersea warfare. SUWC and USWC responsibilities are often combined into a Sea Combat Commander, usually delegated to the DESRON Commander. He performs these duties from aboard the carrier due to its superior command control, communications, computers and intelligence capabilities. Supporting the CWC in his warfare commanders are coordinators who manage force senses and assets within the strike group. List of carrier strike groups. The Navy maintains 11 carrier strike groups, 10 of which are based in the United States and one that is forward deployed to Japan. They were all redesignations of former carrier groups and cruiser destroyer groups. The Fleet Response Plan requires that 6 CSGs be deployed or ready for deployment within 30 days at any given time, while 2 additional groups must be ready for deployment within 90 days. The Navy typically keeps at least one CSG in the U.S. 5th Fleet in Southwest Asia and one in the U.S. 7th Fleet in the Western Pacific at all times. CSGs operate in the U.S. 6th Fleet in the Mediterranean and U.S. 4th Fleet around the South American continent as they transit to and from other areas. CSG commanders report to the respective numbered fleet commander, depending on where they are operating. When not deployed overseas, West Coast CSGs report to U.S. 3rd Fleet. Refueling and complex overhaul. Theodore Roosevelt did not have an embarked CSG since the carrier was currently going through its refueling and complex overhaul, which was expected to be completed by August 2013. Theodore Roosevelt was assigned to Carrier Strike Group 12 subsequent to US Enterprise deactivation. On the 1st of December 2012, US Abraham Lincoln will shift its home port from Everett, Washington, to Newport News, Virginia, for its refueling and complex overhaul in August 2012, subsequently postponed until 2013. On the 14th of January 2014, the U.S. Navy announced that the US Ronald Reagan will replace the US George Washington as the flagship of Carrier Strike Group 5, the only forward-based carrier strike group homeported at Yokosuka, Japan, as part of the U.S. 7th Fleet. The George Washington is scheduled to undergo its midlife complex refueling and overhaul at Newport News Shipbuilding Shipyard in Newport News, Virginia. permanent change of station status. On 14 January 2014, the U.S. Navy announced that the U.S. Theodore Roosevelt will shift its home port to Naval Base San Diego, California, becoming part of the U.S. Third Fleet. As such, the Theodore Roosevelt and its as-yet assigned carrier strike group will also deploy to the U.S. Seventh Fleet's operating area in the Western Pacific. List of active CSG. As of January 2012, the U.S. Navy is committed to maintaining 11 carrier strike groups, but will have only 10 active until Gerald R. Ford goes into service. On 1 August 2011, the Navy announced that Carrier Strike Group 9 will change its permanent duty station from Naval Station Everett to Naval Base San Diego, effective 14 December 2012. List of former CSG. Carrier Strike Group 4 was redesignated alongside the other groups in 2004, but has since been redesignated Commander Strike Force Training Atlantic. Carrier Strike Group 6 was established from Carrier Group 6 with US John F. Kennedy at Naval Station Mayport in 2004, but seems to have since been disestablished. Carrier Strike Group 15 has been disestablished, and its flagship, the carrier Ronald Reagan, was reassigned to Carrier Strike Group 7. The deactivation of Carrier Strike Group 7 effective 30 December 2011 reflects the U.S. Navy's future budgetary reductions and the reduced availability of its operational carrier fleet and carrier air wings. The aircraft carrier US Ronald Reagan will be reassigned as the flagship for Carrier Strike Group 9 following the deactivation of Carrier Strike Group 7.